Hey, this is Cassandra Williams from Educational Innovation 360. This is Fast Track Friday. Today we're going to talk about what are K-12 principals really doing right now, behind the scenes, right? What is the expectations? What are they undergoing at this particular time, which is the end of the year? And then how are they being strategic in planning for next year? There's so much to do. So it's like an end of the year sprint, right? We're finalizing staff evaluation, making sure everybody's evaluation is complete, right? We're thinking about what is the checkout process? What is the check sheet that you need to turn in to make sure your keys turned in and all the things, right? What are the operational tasks and responsibility, whether it's textbook, whether it's one-to-one technology, whether it's management for next year, planning and maintenance for the summer programming, thinking about what are the student-centered activities, like special events from graduations to different ceremonies, and all that is to celebrate student achievement. Now, you may see some principals stressed out. That's because some of them are really looking at what are the operational demands as well. So really thinking about like how are they meeting individual teachers to discuss their performance and debrief? What are they doing to collect the resources? And then how are they doing financially, right? And what are they doing to close out the budget? Maybe they're meeting with the budget and the financial, the fiscal officer, looking for books, ordering books for the new school year, and just thinking about the staffing decisions, which is big, especially now when a teacher shortage. How many teachers are turnover? I know it was one school that I was working with about 2 or 3 years ago. One of the kind of laughing jokes was every year I hire 15 to 17 teachers, right? And so there was a bigger discussion that needed to be had in that conversation, but really identifying who are the teachers returning, who are the teachers staying, and if there's anybody retiring. Looking how the summer is going to play out. What is the strategic planning that needs to be during the summer, right? What is the vision? Think about the comprehensive plans that need to go on for the next year. Thinking about what does that look like? How are we going to analyze data? What are the performance metrics that we're going to have? Maybe there's a new database, a new data system, a new LMS, a new LLM that you're adopting. And what does that look like? Who are our stakeholders? Of course, even looking through some of your feedback, some of your student feedback, and kind of analyzing that and grappling with, okay, this is what we are getting now. How can we change that for next year? And just looking at some of the facilities and some of the operational procedures that we had this year, and how do we need to change it, or why do we need to change it based on better practices or what we think will be better for next year. And that brings me to data matter. What is the analysis and the reflection on the data over the year? Now we're getting the end of the year assessments coming in, and we're being able to get an overview to review how our year in data, what did our standardized test scores look like, and based on our graduation rates, and trying to figure out where are our gaps and where do we need to move. Also, looking at the climate assessment, like what is the reflection process on that, and how do we build a better client for next year, a better climate for next year. Now, of course, you're working with your coaches in your district, but really looking at your professional development for this year. What are your learning? What are the leadership institutes that you are taking yourself on or having the district pay for? How are you attending summer programs, or maybe sending some of your teachers or your coaches for summer institutes, whether it's STEM, whether it's math, whether it's ELA training, like who to make sure that they get access to curriculum as well. How are we ensuring that we have educational leadership and the skills that is necessary for us to transform our school for next year? Maybe you have looked into like Learning Forward, and you kind of saying, okay, here are the trends. This is something I need to learn. This is something I want to learn before the next school year so I can get ahead of AI. And looking at the planning, what does it mean to plan for the entire year for professional development, and understanding what are actionable items and strategies that we need to incorporate next year. And of course, last but not least is, of course, collaborative learning. Thinking about how are we going to connect with other leaders that are doing similar work and really being able to bounce ideas off of them. Now, I don't know how you feel, but everybody has to have some type of planning in place, strategic planning in place, right? Really thinking of like, what is our needs assessments? What do we need? How do we make sure we give the attention to what we saw the gaps were this year? How do we dive deeply into data and provide feedback and just give a visual image of what this year looked like in data, images, feedback? What does it look like for our collaborative development, our team, to work next year on some of these projects? Because of course we can't do it alone. We need support. What does like small stints of short cycle planning look like, right? A living document that is shared with multiple people on planning throughout the year, and ebbs and flows and changes. And then of course this whole idea of district alignment, right? We can't have this goal of math when the district is focused on ELA. So really understanding what is the district's vision for the year and being able to align your vision with the superintendent. Okay, now is the time. It's time to prepare, right? Okay, so let's go. Curriculum planning, thinking about what are your curriculum specialists, whether they're the content experts mentors or the coaches, for the upcoming year, being able to work with them on targeted professional development based on district needs. How's the technology integration aligning with their school goals, or maybe there's gaps, but what does that look like? How are we going to roll that out? Thinking about that through the summer, what are some effective ways that we can start this initiative? And then what are our teacher support systems? How do we make sure that there is not this ongoing consistent cycle of teachers walking in the door and walking out the same year? Thinking of what is our mentoring programs? Maybe we need to strengthen that. Maybe we now need to provide stipends to not only the mentor but the mentee to make sure everything is cohesive. Also thinking about what are the agendas necessary at each checkpoint to make sure everybody gets exactly what they need. Phew, this is a lot, but really thinking about how are you balancing your work and renewing yourself for the new upcoming year. Really completing your task, knowing that your work is essential and it's pretty much the foundation for next year. How are you delegating some of the duties so you don't have to do it all? Making sure your team has access to some of your content materials. And then how are you scheduling me time? What are you doing to restore, to renew, and come back anew? All these things are crucial to make sure not only you finish out the year strong, but you come back very well and rested. Hope these tips help. If you want to know more, DM me, Coach. Talk to you later. Bye.